הפאנל נקרא איך משווקים ל1,400,000,000 סינים. סין היא כמובן לא רק השוק הצרכני הגדול ביותר בעולם, היא גם השוק הצרכני המתפתח הגדול ביותר בעולם. מבחינת מספר האנשים שנכנסים למעמד הביניים עם הכנסה פנויה לנפש שמאפשרת להם לקחת חלק בכלכלה צרכנית מודרנית, יש תחזיות עד ל-2025 להגירה של עוד 250,000,000 איש לערים הגדולות. ב-2025 האוכלוסייה הכפרית בסין והאוכלוסייה העירונית כבר צפויות להגיע לאותו מספר, 650,000,000 בערך בכפר, 650,000,000 בערים, וגם כמובן היכולת דרך הסמארטפון היום בסין להתחבר לכל אותם חנויות האונליין ושירותי האונליין שמוצאים בסין, הופכים את השוק הזה למעניין ולסבוך עם הרבה מאוד שחקנים והרבה מאוד פלטפורמות. אני רוצה להציג את הפאנליסטים שנמצאים כאן לצידי היום. שלומי מחפודה, מנכ"ל של Up to China, חברה שמתעסקת בעיקר בסושיאל מדיה מרקטינג, יושבת בצ'נגדו, בסיצ'ואן, עם משרד גם בשנגחאי, מתעסקת בסושיאל מדיה מרקטינג ובאי-קומרס בסין. בינג חוי דונג, המנכ"לית של ג'אמפ סקייל משיבולת, היא גם אשת תקשורת סינית בעצמה עם ניסיון רב בשוק הסיני, בשוק המדיה הסיני, וכעת עובדת עם חברות ישראליות ולא רק ישראליות על כניסה לשוק הסיני, ותנסה לעזור לנו לקבל כמה כלים לגבי פעולה נכונה במדיה הסינית. רועי גרף, מנכ"ל של אימאה בדרגן טרייל אינטראקטיב. דרגן טרייל מומחים בתחומי התיירות בעיקר, אבל לא רק. רועי ירחיב, עושים פעולה, הרבה מאוד עבודה בדיגיטל בסין כבר הרבה שנים. יצא לנו אפילו להיות שכנים במשרד בשנגחאי במקרה. וליאור ורונה, מנכ"ל ומייסד של Silk Road Group, חברה שעושה PR בסין בשנים האחרונות, נושא שאני יודע שמעניין הרבה מאוד חברות ישראליות, איך אפשר להגיע בכלל לאוזניים סיניות, לעיתונים, לבלוגים וכו'. אני אספר לכם קצת על הרלוונטיות שלי לנושא הזה, ולמה אני בתור מנחה הוועידה ביקשתי להנחות גם, התבקשתי והסכמתי וביקשתי להנחות את הפאנל הזה. ב10 השנים האחרונות יש לי חברה בסין שנקראת ארמה מידיה, חברה שהיא גם משרד פרסום עצמאי וגם חברת הפקות. אנחנו עובדים עם הרבה מאוד לקוחות בינלאומיים על יצירה של פרסומות וסדרות אינטרנט וקמפיינים דיגיטליים בסין. בשנה האחרונה עשינו את 3 הפרסומות הראשונות של גוגל בסין עם החזרה שלהם לסין, זה היה לגוגל טרנסלייט. עשינו את הפרסומת הראשונה ל-BP, לבריטיש פטרול בסין, אחרי שסין נפתחה בעצם לתחרות בשוק האויל אנד גאס, גם למתחרים מערביים. אנחנו עובדים עם נייקי, עם אדידס, עם קונברס, עם דיסני, ולכן אני מאוד שמח שאנחנו כולנו התכנסנו כאן כדי לדבר על הנושאים האלה, כל אחד מהזווית שלו. והשאלה הראשונה שאני רוצה להפנות אליכם, תיקחו לכם כבר מיקרופונים ביד, כדי שתוכלו להצטער על התשובה. We will switch to English, and we're going to have, thank you for the reminder, Bing Hui. We'll switch to English. And the first question that I want to ask you is, first of all, about culture and messaging and creative, because I know it's something that we work very hard on at my office. How do you take a message and adapt it to the Chinese market? What do consumers need to keep in mind, and how much research is necessary and knowledge in order to know that what to say to Chinese, how to communicate your story to Chinese, what interests the Chinese consumers, and what could actually grab their attention in a market that is so big? How do you do that? How do you take a story? Usually the companies have an international marketing story or a European and American marketing story, and they think, okay, we're going to do copy-paste and now use that for China. How do you tell a story that is specifically for China? How much research and knowledge is necessary?
Actually, I always, when I meet companies, Israelis or international, I'm telling them that actually PR, public relations, or to tell a story, or messaging, as Ariel just mentioned, is exactly as you do in the United States or in Europe. In one difference, just make it Chinese. It's not enough to translate. Translation is very easy. Even Google are getting improved every day by translation. The keyword is localization. And localization is to understand the Chinese messaging, the Chinese needs. So in order to do it, you know, you have to have, of course, a Chinese team that are Chinese, real Chinese, mainland Chinese, that understand the market and have experienced the market and understand and know the consumers. They should be young. If you are traveling in the Chinese metro in Shanghai, Beijing, or wherever, you cannot stare your eyes on other people's eyes. You cannot look on their eyes because they're always on their mobile. So in order to approach them, you need to speak with the mobile and give messaging through the mobiles. Of course, there's some example that you know that you are not doing in China, you're doing using politics, there's no issue for politics, but you can sure speak about innovation and making and finding innovation and news. And to do messaging, it should be true. As you are going to the States, you will be unique and true and effective and relevant, the same in China.
So it's really, okay, so it's super important to understand your demographic and know who you're speaking to on different platforms. Because the language, the style, the tone of voice is going to change based on the platform that you're using. Whether it's on Weibo or WeChat, whether it's on Douyin, whether it's on Toutiao, and you're doing sponsored news type posts, if you're doing just like social media for younger people, it's really important to get the tone of voice right. One of the reasons that we as a company focus on hospitality and tourism is that way our staff, our content team knows the travelers and they know the consumers extremely well. And therefore, we don't really have to go and research that every time. But if you're a general agency or you're in a different field, you may have to do the research to understand what people are already discussing and saying and what questions they're asking that you can basically help with. The type of content that goes in digital marketing does change a lot over time. And it's important to follow those trends and to basically look at what's hot right now, and that can change. Now, I would urge you never to use machine translation, even though now WeChat, for example, can offer in-app translation on your chats, etc. Still, when you're thinking about your brand messaging, you have to get it extremely right. So use local knowledge and expertise for translation. And finally, I would say that follow your competitors, look at what other accounts in these fields or in the sectors are doing. For example, when we work with our clients in tourism, hospitality, destination marketing, we run our own independent kind of analysis and ranking of WeChat accounts and Weibo accounts of tourism promotion boards, cruise lines, airlines, hotel chains. And we can see which posts are really, really successful and which ones are not. And over the seasonality, that can change. For example, if you're doing something in spring, then talking about flower blooms and nature and scenery can be really successful. If you're doing something in the summer, then you're going to be talking about family holidays. So, and every season, there will be something else that will pick up the people's attention. So the other issue with social media is you don't want the content to always be sales related. So not always offering price related, product related stuff, but really mix it up with really useful content, helpful content that people are really interested in, also would want to share with their friends.
Thank you, Roy. Bing Hui?
I want to go back a little bit. First of all, the assumption, because your question is about the message, right? So first, my assumption is the message in English or in Hebrew is already clear enough, okay? Which actually we
It's already what?
clear enough.
Clear
because
enough. Okay.
You see a lot of actually, especially startup companies, because the founders usually very engineer, this is their background. So even when they speaking English, the message is not clear. So this is the first thing I would recommend everyone, especially startup, to do it. And secondly, I think it's very important to say you need to understand who exactly you're talking to. It's very, everyone's saying China is huge, but China is the size of Europe. So think about it, it's not only huge, it's very diverse. And you need to really acknowledge this. If you think about you're going to market to Europe, and you will think, I'm talking to Italian or talking to German. It's different mentality, right? You know how to talk, how to change. And the same in China. You're talking with people in Manchuria, probably you need to have get drunk in the dinner, right? And if you're talking with people in Shanghai and in more south, they are more business-oriented. So you need to really understand geographic-wise and also who exactly you're talking to, the target. Otherwise, how can you be confident about your message is relevant to them? So I think this is very important. And this also involves a lot of information gap, because how can you understand your audience which are so far from you? So I think it's very important you have all local knowledge or very reliable local partner to help you to do this, or people in between, somehow to have this bridge to help you to understand who your audience is, and you understand your business better than anyone else, but you need someone to understand your audience better than you, and then you can work out the message, how to adapt the message, which is part of the localization, I think. Another thing is I want to say, because we are talking about a lot of social media thing, but the social media landscape in China is totally different. This is the fundamental line, right? So you say like a lot of people doing social marketing and company doing social marketing in Facebook, all this, all your experience, knowledge, it's not relevant, except for the concept. And then you need to really understand what kind of social media you're doing and to whom and all these kind of things. So I think this is the first thing, to know well who you are talking to, and then think about how to adapt your message.
Shlomi, let's take it one step forward. So we're talking about different sorts of platforms, different sort of knowledge that is necessary. So I think, as we heard earlier today, really duplicating your systems. If you have a system for the international market, understand that that fits to the international market, not necessarily fits to China. You need to create another system. Shlomi, tell us, you do a lot of social media advertising for various brands in China. Where do we see the differences? Okay, so the platforms are different. It's, let's say, WeChat and Weibo and Xiaohongshu and Douyin and et cetera, et cetera. Are there some sorts of behaviors that are different as well? Brands are used to posting maybe once a week, or once a day during lunchtime when they look at the American market, or during the morning, or during the evening. What are some behavioral elements in the Chinese market that make it different?
Yeah, so first of all, I think like the main difference in China, first of all, we have the names, yeah, like WeChat, Weibo, everything is quite similar to the international market in terms of like how people consume this information, but when it goes into the details, actually we can see a big difference. Okay, like, and if I'm talking on the consumer side, why he decides to buy products, I think over there is a big difference. In the West, still people, they want to see what the brand has to offer, okay? But actually in China, lots of people, they want to see what others have to offer, like, KOL, key opinion leaders, influencer. It's a very, very strong tool in China to promote your product. And we can see it. We did amazing campaigns on Weibo and WeChat, et cetera, but at the end, it didn't work. Why? Because the brand is not famous enough, and you need to find a path. And most of the time, what help us a lot to sell to the others is like using like influencers and KOL. And until I arrived to China, I entered this market, I thought like, okay, China is quite cheap. And to find those KOLs, it can be in a decent amount of money. But then I discovered that actually the Chinese market is much more expensive than other markets. Like even I compare it to the US. Okay, just for example, Kardashian, if I want to work with her, I might need to spend $1 million US. Okay, but if I'm talking on the level of Kardashian, but Chinese version, it might cost me at least 5 times more. Why? Because it's a massive market. Okay, lots of consumers, and because of that, like people are willing to invest lots of money. So when companies or brands that are going to China, they need to first of all to know that the message, as we talked before, is not the same. Okay, and they need to even let it go. Okay, leave it to the Chinese team and trust them that they are doing the right thing. Why? Because it's actually not the same. Just a small example. Okay, I work with a brand, a beauty device brand. Okay, and he's selling also like in the US market and a UK market. Over there, he targets the product to 40 to 60 years old, something like that. In China, 25 to 35. Okay, so it's a big different. Okay, the concept is not the same. In China, what we say is like to stay young, and in UK, what they say is like to become young again or something like that. So try to think about it. It's a totally different strategy, totally different approach, how to approach the consumers, what kind of messaging is correct. You know, like in this industry, they are doing beauty devices with Hello Kitty, like kind of packages and stuff like that. That when we showed it to the customer, he said like, it's crazy. Why Hello Kitty and that kind of product is for old people? But actually, the Chinese market is quite different. So I think it's important to know how to adjust your product to the Chinese market and which kind of tools to use. And KOL, I think it's a great option.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about KOLs because I think key opinion leaders, what we call celebrities in Western economies sometimes, here in Israel, we see them everywhere. In China, it's true, as you said, they cost much more, just because I think culturally, and Bing Hui, correct me if I'm wrong, the roots go way back. It's a culture in China that very much goes after there's followers and there is leaders. Traditionally, you see it in schools, you see it in the military, you see it in politics, etc. You've seen it over many years, and also very much a clan sort of structure of society where people admire and look after people that they know in their relation of circles, and if they don't know somebody directly, then at least if it's a celebrity that they admire, they know a little bit of their perceptions, they know a little bit about their background, and if they like them, they have a bigger tendency, of course, to go after any product that they promote. But let's talk a little bit about KOLs. How do you reach the right KOLs? And I'm sure a lot of people here represent businesses that are B2B and not just B2C. Israel doesn't have a lot of B2C that is active in China. We mostly sell softwares and technology, etc., not so much consumer goods. There are a few, of course, some dates, some wine, some cosmetics, but mostly B2B. So if you could relate even to KOLs in B2B, how to find the right KOLs for your business, and what sort of stories can you share from that perspective of KOLs that were successful for a specific business?
Regarding KOLs, first of all, we are speaking about influencers, celebs. You can have someone that is very famous in the United States, and if you use him as an influencer in the United States for a commercial, or in UK, it will be amazing. But we must understand that in Chinese market, it's better, or it's a must to use influencers that are Chinese, that are well known in China, that are celebs in China, Of course, if you use a very famous NBA basketball player, it can be effective. But as we are talking about cosmetics and other commercial products, we must be localized to find out the right people in China that speak Chinese and speak about Chinese, and that Chinese people understand and know them. So actually, this thing of KOL, it's a big industry, and everyone and all of us are knowing it. We must be sure for Israeli companies that try to penetrate China to make sure that they are not getting fake KOLs, because there is also industry for fake. So actually, we have a Chinese partner in Beijing. So of course, it's a big agency. They do the checking, but we must understand about KOLs, because if someone I have $1,000 for KOL and I will sell 100,000 of products, no way. Any KOL has his price. If he has 1 million followers, or 10 million followers, or he has 1,000 followers. For each amount, there is a specific price, and as Shlomi said before, we must understand that using KOL is relevant, effective for cosmetic, and we have some cosmetic examples that were good, and we did it for in the expo in Shanghai. A lot of KOLs came to see the companies, the Israeli companies presented there, and it was effective. But in order to do it, we must understand that we need to put budget, because it's not like if someone thinks that he goes to buy a shirt in China very cheap, he can also use KOLs for cheap. No way. This is effective. If you want to be effective, you need to invest money.
Thank you. So I think that influencers, KOLs, can be super effective for B2C campaigns or B2B2C. If you're talking about purely B2B, there will be other strategies that will probably be more effective for you to network and reach your audience. So specifically talking about KOLs, not all of them are huge celebrities. There are many that we would term micro KOLs, where maybe they have only several 100,000 followers, but they are very dedicated and very specifically interested in a particular topic, sector. It can be self-driving, it can be design, it can be art, it can be music. So their followers are already specifically interested in that. And we look at that as long-tail marketing, where even with the smaller amount of followers, their engagement level is very high. So when you're assessing the influence of a particular influencer, just looking at number of followers is going to be misleading. As I think you just said, people can buy followers. It's very easily done on any platform in China. So the engagement and how often those followers are active, are sharing, are liking, are commenting is really important for you to do your research. Even things like likes can be faked and by bots. So do your research, definitely get localized, local help for that, because also the kind of platform that will be really hot and up and coming now might not be the same platform next year or in 6 months' time. And sometimes getting new influencers on a relatively new platform, if the target audience matches what you're looking for, will also be a lot cheaper and efficient, cost efficient for you to run those campaigns on those, rather than say on WeChat, where ad campaigns are very expensive.
I want to give actually a very nice example. Last week, my friend sent me a picture of a Hava store in Shanghai. And in the store, there is a big screen. In the screen, there is the most famous KOL currently Li Jiaqi. He's a guy put cosmetics in TikTok and selling millions, or even not going to be billions, I don't know. Yeah. And so anyway, so it's very good example. You see offline store, you have this online, the super KOL, and presenting Israeli top cosmetic brand. So this is, I just want to say how strong KOL is. But I do think there is another thing. I just want to say a bit psychological why Chinese is so follow the KOL, whatever. Because the education, the root of the education was not like a Jewish education. My daughter came to Israel and raised, and the teacher gave the comment is like, she knows how to ask question, which I thrilled. But when I was a child, my comment is like, she all the time asks questions, she needs to change. So it's like, we have a tendency to follow the authority, to follow anything. And also give another tendency to, China is a country of impression, meaning that all the brands should be more visual, much fine than the Israeli level. And so this is all goes together with the, your brand strategy to China, especially for B2C market. For B2B, I think it's different. I think a KOL is more, in the community, more circled. And for B2B, I do recommend, I think a PR is very, very important. You cannot believe, actually Chinese people already have many delegations, but when they pick the company, for example, I have a Chinese investor coming, and they say, okay, I want to meet. How they do? Because the decision maker, they don't understand English. There is a huge gap. So they search online Chinese media to find which innovation Israeli company they talked. So it really means a lot, like to do the PR and to make the impression. It's different level of impression, but to make the impression is definitely key for you to have your right exposure in China.
Yeah,
Shlomi, your take on it, and if I can ask shortly so we can do one more question, because we have around 5 minutes left.
Yeah, so first of all, B2B, I think it's much easier because it's easy to recognize what kind of channels are quite leading channels. So B2B, I don't think it's a big issue, but definitely it's possible to use and it's very good to use. If we're talking about like the B2C, today there is a new trend in China. They call it KOC. It's like Key Opinion Consumer, and this one is quite relevant. Actually, now we are trying to look for not like the real KOL, but a very small key opinion leader, like he said, like the micro bloggers, or even like the guys that has some friends on like something like Facebook. And over there, it would be more convenient, more cost effective, and then you can use it. Because as everybody said, China with KOLs has lots of fake. It's very hard to know what is real, what is not. Like we have posts with thousands of comments, but actually when we see the store or the sales, it doesn't affect. But from the other side, if you can find a good KOL, you can sell a lot.
Let's say you have to be cautious, but if you work with the right agency and the right people, there's a lot of ways to make sure that, that you work with the right people. Let's talk a little bit about the platforms. We mentioned very quickly all kinds of platforms. We're approaching 2020. What are the platforms to be on? I want to ask you guys, where to be active? Is it still WeChat? Everybody talks about the WeChat world in China. The mega app where people are consumed about 20 hours a day in China. Is it still WeChat? Is it, or is it becoming more specific per vertical? What is the place for Douyin? What is the place for Xiaohongshu? Where do you think brands should be? And if you could share one do and don't from your experience when companies do marketing in China. Who wants to start?
I can start a bit quick. WeChat is not the right platform to use today, I must to say. Okay, if you want to have a community, to engage with your community, to stay in touch with them, WeChat is a good tool, but I don't think it's the best tool to use. Weibo is decreasing as well. Today, the trend is to go to videos, very short ones. So definitely I would put my investment in Douyin and Xiaohongshu. Xiaohongshu is red, very, very good, very cost effective, and definitely another very strong channel in China today is like live streaming. Zhibo, very, very good, and again, it's like a sales-oriented channel, so it's very hard to very easy to measure and to give good results.
Yeah.
As a way to do WeChat, WeChat is kind of the communication. It's WhatsApp, but much more effective, we know, because they use it. It's a way to communicate and to build your groups. But of course, in order to promote, we use a lot of Weibo as well, because Chinese people trust the social media. They think that if there is any recommendation, it's true more than anything that is written in the newspaper, in the traditional media. They trust each other about recommendations.
Although they know that celebrities are getting paid for that.
Of course, but celebs, what I found out, that a celeb will never take any money, unless it's fake. If he's a real celeb, he will always check the product. He will never, it's his reputation. From my experience, it's his reputation. He will check. He will never sell a fake product unless he's a fake celeb. So actually, as we said before, we need to choose the right one. And it's good WeChat to communicate, but there are other things like Toutiao and other way of communicate with people that are much effective, but less expensive as WeChat. If you want a campaign on WeChat, we understand it's very expensive.
Yeah, that's very expensive, of course.
Yeah.
Roy?
So I echo that WeChat is more of an engagement and community building and loyalty platform, customer service, customer retention, after sales, much more. If you want to introduce a new brand, you should be on WeChat, but the way to get the customers and to get the followers needs to go through other channels, because otherwise you'll just spend all your money on campaigns on WeChat. The key is to have a multi-platform strategy that allows for trial and error and to basically test different campaigns to see what works for your specific demographic, especially if you're relatively new and you're doing something innovative. Things like Weibo are still quite effective because they are linked into short video apps now, and they own their own app platforms for video. So it works together well integrated. But in all of these things, don't forget that you should have your own owned presence online, whether it's a website, a mobile website. Those things are still not over, and it's important to be able to send people from these different platforms to your own presence online.
Yeah. Ming-Hui?
Because I'm not really B2C oriented here, so I just want to say two things. One is it doesn't matter what business you are doing with China, first to be relevant, and second, do it properly, according to Chinese way.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, our time is up. Thank you very much, panel members. They are all staying here for the rest of the afternoon, so feel free to ask them questions personally if there are any. Sorry we didn't have time for that. Thank you very much.